Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
I have to say that Joe KARP, last time he was on our radio show, talked about this wonderful way that you can get money that you didn't even know was not loaned, but money that was due you. And, Joe, I'm glad you're on the show because I had a couple of calls on that show and people wanted more information. And then I see for our upcoming issue, the May issue, that you wrote an article on it. It's a very hot subject. I don't know what happened with you, Joe. But anyway, it was very interesting that he had a topic about people who are owed money. They don't know that they have that money sitting anywhere. And so he talked about that, and I was so interested.
Hello?
Hello, Joe. Are you there now?
Yes, I am. I was there when you said, "Are you there?"
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you, but I guess we have you on the air now. I don't know what happened there. Technical difficulty, right?
I think I made it a hot subject. Apparently, we just burned the phone line.
Right. That's good, Joe. Good comeback. But you did. You made it a hot subject. And as a matter of fact, I even had one of my sons who said, listen, I just got a notice that there's some money from a trust that I need you to help me get. And I said, well, we talked about it. But I'm sure a lot of people now dialed that number or got on the website with it. That was extraordinary. I'm so glad you did that.
Yeah, and what I can tell people is every once in a while they'll get a letter in the mail that says, we have found money you're entitled to, and if you sign these papers, we get to keep 50% and we'll process it for you. And basically, frequently it's either that they found it through this system and then found you, and were able to ascertain it was of sufficient value for them to do the chase. They're not going to chase $9, but they don't do everybody. And they also catch estates where people have died, and there's a question as to who their relatives are. Those are legitimate claims, and when people get those letters, I always say, well, they're legitimate, and sometimes it's clear-cut if you go on to treasurehunt. I forgot if it's .org or .fla. Given the sites, the citations in the column, and if you have the column there, you can do it. I'm sorry I didn't print it up in advance. And
I don't have it yet. It's at the printer, so I don't have it either. But people will be able to get it when they see the column coming up.
Go pick up Boomer Times. You know where to get it. Go pick it up, and it'll be in the April Boomer Times, in the May Boomer Times, pardon me. And they'll be able to look it up and locate it. And the other thing is sometimes they're getting it because it's not just in those sites, but somebody died and left them money, and they don't know who it is that died. And you say, well, how do people not know? Oh, I had a client who's had a cousin from Yugoslavia who had died in this country. My client died after his cousin. He never knew his cousin was in this country, and an organization tracked him down, and ultimately it was like the cousin in Vermont from Yugoslavia died in July, and my client was an heir at law of his because he died without a will or anything, and my client died in August, which made him a beneficiary of this decedent's estate. They found my client, but my client was dead, and my client's wife ended up getting the money. So sometimes there are things like that happen. The theoretical long-lost uncle is frequently a long-lost cousin, and these things do happen from time to time. But there's over $2 billion in the Florida unclaimed funds, over $2 billion sitting there that people are entitled to. They've been surrendered to the state because the people who are known to be entitled to it, it's not, they don't know who's entitled to it. The state just doesn't do the chase And that's totally legal and kosher, because if they did the chase, they could be chasing the wrong people, and they could be spending all of the darn money just chasing you.
Joe, the one thing I do want to caution people is when you get letters or you get emails or you get phone calls, beware, because we have a lot of that going on. There was a story where a woman, of course, they do the whole thing with your grandchild. It was the middle of the night, and apparently they said your grandchild needs this, and you have to send money right away. And darn if she didn't do it. So we have to be very careful about this.
Oh, and they'll call up and say, "Is this ANITA FINLEY?" And you say, "Yes." "Well, we have some information for you that you're going to get a lot of money, but we can't tell you anything unless we know you're the right ANITA FINLEY, because there's a bunch of them we've located. We have her Social Security number. If you give us your Social Security number, we'll confirm if you're the one." And you say, "My Social Security number is 123456789, and they can say, "I'm sorry, it's not you." And now they've got your Social Security number, your address, and all the rest of the information they needed because they already found your credit cards. Or they say, "Yes, it is you. Now, here's what we got to do, but you got to send us a check because we get nothing, or we get a percentage, but we don't advance any money." There's always the con. So people have to be careful. And then there are the non-cons, and I will bring this up because my clients get this all the time. I always have people who come into my office. There's two things. And if we're doing a trust, we tell them bring in your deed, etc. 90% of the people don't know where their deed is, and there's good reason. And I'll tell you that in a minute. But what they do is now there's at least one company that sends a letter out in the mail and says, if you do not have your original deed, you may wish to have a certified copy of your deed. Send us $89 and we will get you a certified copy of your deed. And that is totally legitimate. And they then get a copy of the deed from the clerk of the court, certified, and if it's a one-page deed, that costs them $2, and they mail it to you. Okay? Well, there's two things. You don't need a certified copy of your deed. Nobody gives a damn what a certified copy of the deed says. That is proof of what that deed said on the day that deed was issued. That's all, and that was filed with the court. Let me tell people two things with regard to that, as long as we're into mails. One is, here's what happens generally. You go to a closing, you buy a piece of property. When you buy that, you walk out of the place with a packet full of papers, including what's known as a title commitment and copies of the papers that were signed. Now, you don't walk out with the original deed because the original deed has to be recorded with the clerk of the court so that the public record reflects it. And you don't walk out with you walk out with a copy of the mortgage, again, because the original gets filed with the clerk. And then after all of that's done, after the closing is done, normally several weeks later, you get the title insurance policy, which is different than the commitment. The commitment says, if nothing switched since X time, we're going to issue an insurance policy. And the reason is very simple. If you go to the closing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they checked all of the public record on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and then on Wednesday at 3 o'clock you close, they can't just keep looking at the clerk's office. So when you go to the closing and you buy the house and I sell you the house, the title company doesn't know if I sold somebody else the house at 11 in the morning and that's going to get recorded at 4 in the afternoon. They have no idea of knowing that. I just swear that I didn't, but what the hell do they know? They don't know. we all know there are dishonest people in the world. So what they do is they then make sure, then they record the deed and they see, there are no problems, there are no liens, there's been no sale, and that's 99.9999 of the normal time, right? And then they issue the policy, they've recorded the deed, they then get the deed back, and normally what they do is they mail the original deed to you with the title insurance policy. That's quite frequent. Sometimes it's even stapled into the policy. So if you can't find your policy, that's where to look. Your deed. That's number one. And the insurance goes to the buyer, and the buyer's the one who has the house, so that's how they get the deed.
Well, I want everyone to know that my guest is Joseph S. KARP, and he is a nationally certified and Florida Bar certified elder law attorney specializing in the practice of trusts, estates, and elder law. He has 3 offices. His offices are located at 2500 Quantum Lakes Drive in Boynton Beach, and he has 2875 PGA Boulevard in Palm Beach Gardens, and then there's one in Port St. Lucie. So if you want to call him toll-free from anywhere, it's 800-893-9911. Or you can always go on his website for all the information on his seminars, and it's KARPlaw, KARPlaw.com. You know, I really wanted to do this because I always think everybody knows you. But I thought, well, maybe there's some new people listening, and they'd like to know who this brilliant lawyer is.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to finish that story, and then we'll talk about my upcoming workshop.
Okay, good.
So anyway, now, suppose you can't find your deed. Number one, you own the house. Let me tell you the story. Everybody can go to the public record, Palm Beach County's property appraiser, and you can actually hit in your address and your name, and you can, and it's simple enough to do. All of your listeners have teenage grandchildren or 8-year-old grandchildren. They'll do it for you, trust me. They can. And then online, you can get your deed. And if you don't want it certified, you can just print up a copy online. They're that available that readily. If you want it. So you can do that online, not pay a penny, and do it. Here's how the world works. So you say, but what if my deed is missing? It doesn't matter. It's what the public record reflects that's important. If you go online and your deed is the last deed listed for that property, the record reflects that you own that property. Now, if there's a mortgage, it'll be reflected as well. There's a different place those are reflected. So if there's a mortgage on the property, then that'll show as well because they have to put the legal description down. So that's how they can tell if there's any liens, if there's judgments against you that would impact on the property, they can look at that as well. But basically, you don't have to worry if you can't find your deed that somehow you won't be able to sell your house or your kids won't be able to inherit it. The public record shows it, and it's all sequential. Who owned it last? Who sold it to you? And we always tell people when they come to us with their estate planning, always bring their deeds. The number of people whose deeds are screwed up are surprising, usually because something was done after they buy it, like they refinanced and they were told to do this and that. The number of people who tell me they own their house and I see, well, they do, but they actually transferred it to a trust is separate. I had a mother and son in my office the other day. They bought the property together, and they say, we own the property. And while they were there, we pulled a deed. It takes that quickly. I buzzed one of my paralegals, said, can you bring me a copy, print up their deed and bring it in to me. And the deed showed that the two of them, in fact, owned it, but they didn't own it joint with right of survivorship. So there would have been probate over the deed when either one, over the half of the house, if either one of them had died, or not if, when, right? So they just assumed it automatically went to the other one, and it didn't. And sometimes those are rookie mistakes. Whoever did it was new and didn't know what they were doing. Sometimes it's they don't care. The title company prepared the deed. They were told mom and son are getting the house. Nobody told them to make a joint with rather survivorship. They're not going to be presumptuous enough to say when the son dies he wants his mother to get it. Maybe he wants his wife to get it, and they bought it with his name because he's putting some money in it, and he doesn't want his mother to get it because she'd leave it all to his miserable brother. So you never know. But that's true, right?
Oh my, that's true.
So they don't assume anything, and they're not going to start calling up and finding out what you want. All they know is mom and son bought it. Those are the two names going on the deed. And if you even had a lawyer at the closing, maybe the lawyer doesn't pay attention to that. All he or she is looking at is mom and son are buying it, and frequently people who don't use lawyers because they use the broker and the title company, the broker's just making sure that the name is spelled right on the check for the commission, which is a very important thing to the broker. And the broker doesn't want to do anything to slow down the transaction. So these deeds are important, what they say, but don't pay $89 to get something through the mail that you can get yourself either for free or for $2 if you want to get a certified copy.
So as the lawyer, Joe, as the lawyer, though, you're the one that can help them. If they come to you, and you're their lawyer, you're the one. That's just what you're advising now.
Yeah, we do that. And so for those of your listeners who are awake and have their pencils on, we are doing the last of our workshops for the season. We're doing our May workshops Tuesday, April 30th. That's so that everybody knows lawyers aren't always late. We're a day early on that. Tuesday, April 30th, we're doing our Senior Survival Workshop in Palm Beach Gardens at the Marriott Hotel off RCA Boulevard and PGA Boulevard. It starts at 1:30. We usually end by 4. And on Tuesday, we do the May 1 in Boynton Beach.
No, Tuesday. Wait a minute. That must be Wednesday.
Wednesday, May 1.
Okay.
In Boynton Beach at the Courtyard by Marriott, which is on Congress Avenue between Gateway and Boynton Beach Boulevard. And that, too, starts at 1:30. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the hotel available in St. Lucie, so we're not doing it in St. Lucie this month. We're just doing it the 2 days. We are not doing a June workshop. So if you're interested in getting your stuff done, show up. The other thing is we're running into, and if you're going to go there, we're going to teach you all about elder law issues related to legal documents and estate planning. We're going to talk about Medicaid planning and VA benefits that may be available for long-term care, and we explain all of that. We also offer a free consultation to anyone who attends whom we think we can help, and we explain if we don't think we can help you why you're in the wrong place. We don't want to waste your time or ours. And that is very beneficial, and I'm going to tell people, come, but we're running into the usual problem that we run into in the middle of April. People are leaving town soon. So you got to come early and see if we can help. If you make your appointment soon enough, we'll let you know if we can see you and get things done for you or not in a timely fashion. We have not decided about July workshops or August this year. We're thinking of not doing it. So for you're a Floridian, you're going to be around, this is your shot, and you'll learn a lot of stuff. You get the free consultation, and also seminar attendees are offered a discount on our trust plans for people who hire us and meet with us within a certain time after the meeting. So they set their appointment within 2 weeks, they'll get a 10% discount on their trust. So this is the time to do it. because no time like the present when it comes to estate planning.
I want to ask you a question, though, as you're talking
Sure.
about this. So let's say someone didn't get to you when they should have. Do you have telephone counseling? Do you do that, and then you, of course, charge, but what?
To some degree, we do some telephone consultations, but we'll do, and very limited. It's normally when we're doing it, it's a Medicaid case. Normally when we're doing it, we're being paid for that consultation. Normally when we're doing it, it's because the child who's the power of attorney for the parent is in Long Island. They want to know what they can do, and they want to know what authority they have, and they want to know whether they can help us. So I had a consultation like that yesterday. It was actually the niece of a woman who has no children, and I had the power of attorney, and I told her, well, here are the things one could do, but you can't because the power of attorney does not give you the ability to do it. I asked when she's coming down. I said, here's the story. She was coming down in, I want to say May 15th. In the evening, we gave her an appointment for May 16th in the middle of the day because I said, I want you to go to your aunt and talk to her about what we've discussed because she's not going to be a happy player. The aunt is not going to ever be able to make it out. The rehab people have said she cannot go home, she cannot walk, and she has nobody with her, and she has limited assets. She's not broke enough to go on Medicaid without doing some Medicaid planning, but she couldn't afford to pay, privately to a nursing home for $12,000 a month, and she couldn't afford to pay privately to have somebody stay in her home for anywhere between two, and if you're doing one shift person, $200 plus a day to double shift people to $400 a day for more than a couple of months. So she's going to go broke. She has issues. And I said, talk to her first because you don't want to spin your wheels and then just figure it out. Ask her where she's getting the money. Her niece doesn't have the money to help her. Her niece is using vacation time to come down and assist her aunt. But those consultations we get paid for when we're doing them over the phone. Sometimes we'll have a 5 or 10 minute chat, but we can't. We find that if you're not eyeballing people, it's very difficult to get your point across for them to understand it, and that has nothing to do with age. And by the way, she's not meeting with me. I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks. My wife are going away right before Mother's Day, and we're not going to come back till Memorial Day. And she'll be meeting with my son, Jonathan, who's an attorney in the firm, and she'll be meeting with him. And our social worker will be there with him, as she would be with me. And so we continue to do and serve our clients. They don't need to see Joe Karp. That's the beauty of our firm. We're 5 lawyers deep.
So on a personal note, where are you going?
We're just going to go do some family visiting stuff.
Okay, good.
So
you're not going to the Galapagos or anything like that?
No, we're going to do some visiting up in New York and then rent a car and drive around and just take it easy and just...
Stay away from Queens where the measles are.
Oh, I will stay away from Queens where the measles are and also the Hasidic section of Brooklyn.
Okay. Well, Joe, it's always great talking to you. People learn so much from you. I thank you so much, and we hope people will go to your seminars, and we'll talk to you when you get back.
And I hope they get Boomer Times, the May edition, so they can read all about the stuff they want to find their money.
Absolutely. You can always get them at Joe Karp's office also. Thank you so much, Joe.
Care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.